Joining us now, and this is going to be fun because he's got a lot to say. Joining us now, former House of Delegates member from Northern Virginia, one of the last Republicans to be able to win consistency in Loudoun County in Northern Virginia, David Ramadan. Delegate Ramadan, good to have you with us.
John, always good to be back. I think I have called in the show once or twice in the past when I was in the Middle East on business. I never thought that I'd be calling in from lovely Northern Virginia while you're in the Middle East. That's interesting to hear.
Thank you. I took your lead. We try to go where the action is. It's easy to sit in the studio and read the legacy media, try to figure out what's going on. But we cover the Middle East, as you know, pretty extensively on our show for a D.C.-based show. And, I've gotten two sides of this argument. I've had a chance to interview both the ambassador of Qatar and the ambassador of Saudi Arabia to the U.S. I had two conflicting, really, I don't know if you'd call it facts, evidence, but two conflicting views on what is going on. So we figured, why don't we go out there and find out for ourselves? So we're going to talk about that.
Well, I'll invite you. I'll invite you to my class at George Mason next semester. I teach every fall. I teach a Middle East realities class. Would love to have you as a guest speaker.
I would love to be there, and, you're just trying to learn. But I really want to go over some of the domestic politics, but I've got to start with this conflict here within the Gulf Cooperation Council where, you've got United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain and Qatar all in a dispute now, which is, 4 of the 7 members or 4 of the 6 members. Kuwait trying to mediate it. That's going nowhere. And then meeting with the Qatari government demands the Saudis have put 13 demands on the Qatari government in order to relieve this embargo. And government officials in Qatar telling me yesterday and today it just isn't going to happen. They're not even close. And they said there's 3 of them that they're not going to budge on: closing Al Jazeera, the extradition of people that are in Qatar legally that oppose the Saudi or Bahraini government, and then also going forward, the restricting the movement of people in between these 3 countries. How does this get resolved?
It doesn't. This is one of those issues that both parties have dug in, and both parties have no incentive or need to resolve it. How do you resolve conflict in general? Either because of parties have need to resolve it or have some sort of incentive to resolve it. In this scenario, and that's the nature of the Middle East, we haven't resolved the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and it's been going on for decades. The Syrian civil war, everybody predicted it'll be just a quick battle. I said it'll be a 10-year civil war. The Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or Qatar versus the rest of the Gulf conflict will not be resolved anytime soon. Qatar is a very, very rich country. It's the highest GDP in the world. They literally struck gold by striking natural gas several years ago. Their wealth have exceeded the expectation or the need of any nation in the world, and therefore they don't have a need to back down whatsoever. From an economical point of view, from a military point of view, Qatar is home to the largest American base in the world, and have made some very interested and unique deals recently with Turkey and Iran and Russia. So they've always been able to work both sides to their benefit. So now they have all these superpowers with some sort of military relationship with Qatar. And therefore there's no military threat to them as well. So I don't see them backing down, and this will not be resolved anytime soon.
The Saudis, for one country in the Gulf, they accused Qatar of basically 3 things, is what the Saudi ambassador told me. Number 1, funding terrorism across the region. I asked the Qatar government about that. Obviously, they denied it, right? No surprise there. They also complained that they were too sympathetic to the Tehran regime in ran, and they were back-channeling with that. The Qatari government said not true. And then the third thing they said is that they were cozying up to the Muslim Brotherhood, and secretly they were backing the Muslim Brotherhood, which is what got the problem they have with Egypt, why Egypt has joined the other three countries in the embargo. But the Qataris are saying that's not true. And then the final thing that they were blaming them is they were saying that the Al Jazeera News Network is incenting foment, and it's fomenting, terrorists to get involved, and it's spreading propaganda. Are any of those accusations true?
Yeah, look, the Qataris are entitled to their own opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts. It's saying that I love applying on American politics also applies to others. They can deny it all they want. In their opinion, they may believe that what they're doing is not that. However, the facts are they are doing all of the above. The Saudis are correct. The Qataris have done all of this stuff, plus more. They have played with Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Iranian proxy there. Mind you, though, if we look at history, the Qatari played with the other side, and there are a lot of historical facts that shows Qatar's cooperation with Israel that goes back to the 60s and the 70s. Israel had some sort of a trade office in Qatar before there was any diplomatic relationships in the Middle East. And I think there are even available pictures today of Menachem Begin back in Doha back in the 70s. So Qatar has always played with both sides, and they've always denied it. That's a historical fact. And in today's world, there's not much you can deny with the availability of intelligence and social media and news and accessibility to what everybody's doing. Yes, they are doing all of the above.
Well, they say they're not. And
they can keep saying it. Doesn't make it true.
They've challenged me to present, to ask the other side to present evidence. They said there's no evidence of this.
They have. When you come back, go meet and interview with the phenomenal UAE ambassador in Washington, Ambassador Al-Utaiba, who has been very clear on the subject, who has written several op-eds on the subject, and who has been pretty much the other team's representative in Washington to prove these allegations, and he has. Now, are you going to be able to have a copy of all the details yourself, or as a member of the media or a civilian? Probably not. Mm-hmm. Are you, is it your job to go prove it to them? Of course it's not. Mm-hmm. But until you prove it to me makes it wrong, that's not how the world works. They might want it to work that way. That doesn't make it work that way. I mean, again, it's out their opinion, not their own facts. But go interview Ambassador Al-Utaiba when you come back in Washington, and I think he'll make it very clear, and he'll have convincing evidence to show that the Qataris has done what they're accused of doing. And look, in the past they would have admitted it. Actually, sometimes they admitted doing all of that. They were happy to host all of the Muslim Brotherhoods, for example, and they're still there. It's a fact of life. These Muslim Brotherhood descendants that are screwing around with other countries are taking refuge and living in Doha. I mean, what are you saying? Oh, they're living here, but we're not letting them do anything. Oh, yes, you do. You got Al Jazeera that lets them out and do whatever they want at the same time, and you finance them. And so, I mean, they can't deny that. It's ridiculous to deny it.
We're live from Doha, Qatar, and we're with David Ramadan, Republican, former House of Delegates member in Virginia, in the Northern Virginia area, and probably the last Republican standing there. He would have won if he ran again. He was unbeatable there. He decided to retire and go on to bigger and better things like actually feed his family. David Ramadan, let me ask you this. You were very upset about the election of Tim Hannigan as the chairman of the Fairfax Republican Party the other day, and you didn't mince words. I want to give you an opportunity to explain that. I had backed Hannigan early on, and then when this whole flap went down with Freddie Burgos, I was very upset with Hannigan's reaction to that. I thought it was not clear and very political, and so I withdrew my backing and stayed out of that particular race. But you were not happy, and you said it's the end of the Republican Party. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, look, this whole exclusionist Republican Party atmosphere, as you know, and you and I have disagreed and been on the opposite sides on the national side, where I believe Trump and Trumpism have been bad for America for multiple reasons, but one of which is it had emboldened these kind of people and these kinds of activities on local levels, right? It has emboldened people to think that it's okay now to be a white nationalist. It has emboldened people to think it's okay now to have a religious test on everything. No, it is not. It's not okay to be an alt-right. It's not okay to be a white nationalist. It is racist. It is not okay to have a religious test. You can love your religion. You can see the world within your religious view. That is your purview to do so. But you do not have in this country, not with this Constitution that has lasted hundreds of years and will last again, not this greatest system on earth because of those rights that the Constitution made it clear. And by the way, these are not rights given by anyone. These are inherent to humans as rights. Because of those, we've kept a country that should not make a difference between a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, a Hindu, when it comes to government and governance and public policy. And you get people like this guy, Borges, and others in the past that I've called out that have said stupid, moronic things as well regarding women and regarding minorities. And this guy wants to put a religious test, and he attacks the former chairman of the Fairfax County Republicans because he is Jewish. And he believes that only a Christian should be in leadership. Well, that is contrary to even Christianity, not just contrary to the Constitution. And I call that moronic. I call that stupid. And I call that crazy. And I believe that this event after event after event and taking over of one committee versus another is the end of the party. We saw the backlash against Trump and this kind of atmosphere in November in Virginia. We lost 15 seats in the Virginia House. We kept the majority with the luck of a draw, literally, versus, and we're going to see this again this November. I mean, I can tell you from now, I can predict that the Congress will, at least the House in the Congress, will go to the Democrats, and we'll be lucky to keep the Senate. And this can't continue. This is un-American, and this is certainly not the grand old party. And notice in that tweet, I said the grand old party, not just the GOP. This is the party of Lincoln. This is the party of history. This is the party of making America what America is today. And now we have morons applying white supremacy and religious tests on people. Unacceptable.
So you aimed your ire at Tim Hannigan, who got elected, and he didn't really say any of this stuff. It was Freddie Burgos who's under fire, and he should get kicked out of the State Central Committee. And I've said this, David, if they don't kick Freddie Burgos out, I don't think there is a Republican Party of Virginia, right?
Correct.
I don't think it exists.
We both agree.
If they don't
he needs
have
to be kicked out this Saturday. Absolutely.
If he doesn't kicked out, you don't have a party, basically. So I would assume that's going to happen. But you were upset about Hannigan getting elected. Now, I withdrew my support for Hannigan because I thought his response to Burgos was political and milquetoast, right? He said, he's not a part of my campaign, but there needs to be an investigation. And I'm like, all you have to do is open up his Facebook post. There's no investigation to be done. The guy said, don't vote for don't vote for the other guy because he's a Jew. Vote for the Christian. I mean, what kind of an investigation do you need?
They did not need an investigation. The guy didn't mince any words. He was very clear about his anti-Semitism. And yes, my ire at Hannigan. No, I don't know this guy from Adam. Never met Hannigan. I don't know if I have, maybe somewhere, but I don't know him. I honestly don't know the guy. Don't have any real interaction with him. Don't have any relationship with him. So I got nothing for him or against him. But my issue now is not just with the anti-Semites, not just with the people that are doing the actions, but all those that are tolerating it. In my mind, tolerating anti-Semitism is equal to being an anti-Semite. Tolerating white supremacy is equal to being a white supremacist yourself. And whether you're tolerating it for political reasons or because you want to please part of the base, well, that's even worse. That means you're a coward. And if that's how we want to go, then we have a party that is full of anti-Semites, white supremacists, people that tolerate anti-Semites and white supremacists, which makes them equal and makes them cowards.
When is
leaders.
When does the Republican Party of Virginia State Central Committee, when do they make the decision on Burgos? When is that vote?
This Saturday. Their next meeting is this Saturday, and they'll better kick him out. And anything less than kicking him out means that they are all anti-Semites, and they are all cowards, and they are all white supremacists. There's no mincing of words. You tolerate this behavior, that means you condone it. That means you are equal to it, whether you believe it or not.
Do you plan to be there?
By action at that point.
Do you plan to be there Saturday? Do you plan to be there Saturday?
No, man. As you know, I'm earning a living again. Take care of the family and paying for mortgages. I'm doing some activities. Some activities through speaking out. I do my public service through teaching at George Mason University. I am an adjunct who does not get paid. I do it as a volunteer to give back to my alma mater and to teach the young millennials coming out about my lessons in politics and in Virginia legislative system. But look, I disagreed with Trump the minute Trump became the nominee of the party. I walked out. It's the right thing to do. You can't be in the party and be and not work with the vehicle and the head of the vehicle. I disagreed with the head of the vehicle. I disagreed with the head of the organization. And I walked away.
Take
and I have not participated in party in party events since the day that Donald Trump was nominated.
We're out of time, David. We're not going to debate Trump. As you know, I am an avid Trump supporter, and he's going to win again in 2020. But I do agree with you 100% on Freddie Burgos, and I did withdraw my support for Tim Hannigan because I thought his response to Freddie Burgos was political doublespeak, and it is an issue. I'm out of here.